Here we go.
We're live, baby.
We did it. Welcome back, everybody. We got the weekly SEO jam. I obviously want to bring legends for you guys. Lane, besides, by the way, being really smart about SEO, is just really cool dude. So for those of you guys who get a chance to collaborate with him, but for those of you guys who don't know him already, Lane Houk is the founder of Signal Genesis, which is a very, very cool software that helps agencies with ranking signals. We can talk about that another time. And he's also the founder of Quantum Agency, serving a lot of you guys as your white label fulfillment partner in the back corner. And just so you guys know, I've actually battle tested Lane ourselves. I definitely fumbled and bumbled as a guy, like in our 90-day challenge, just showing you guys how to do that. But, Lane was there to pick up a lot of the pieces. So anyways, first of all, my man, thank you for coming on here and doing this once again. It is exciting to have you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Appreciate it, Frankie. We were talking about, Frankie and I were talking about doing this. He's like, hey, why don't we talk about SEO, once a week? And I was like, I'm only going to do it if you join me, because I'm not going to sit here and talk by myself. And Frankie adds an element of coolness that just no one else can touch. So good to be with you, my man.
Yeah.
So we were just talking
about me. I'll take it, my man.
What's that?
Anytime you want to brag about me, I'll take it, my man.
Absolutely. Vice versa, for sure. Yeah, so Frankie and I were just talking before we went live. I was like, hey, let's just go live and talk about this. But so we'll dive into, we're going to talk a little bit about helpful content system part 2 today and get into some more of the granular things around EAT and authorship. But before we do that, we were just talking about just, building a business, building a company, building an agency, for those of you who are, our agency partners out there listening. There's no, I guess you can't say there's any right or wrong way. It's just what's right for you, right? But Frankie and I were talking about how, building a company, building an agency that allows you, or that where you have your priorities, I guess, straight first, right? For me, I always had my family, my boys as top priority.
Yeah.
Obviously God, family, country, some of those, big, we've heard those before,
Yeah.
a little bit cliche there, but that really was true for me. And so I built my business around those priorities. I didn't build my family and my priorities around my business.
Yeah.
And so, that's just an approach that you can take. We were talking about how we've seen plenty of people spend 20
Can I actually share a story on that? Because I have an extreme example of somebody who didn't practice that. I was at a Hollywood party. So like a couple of my entrepreneurial friends, their business model is they put on big Hollywood parties for charity. They pay and hire a bunch of A-list celebrities. So they have like regular events. The one I was at had Ashton Kutcher. It had Jack Canfield, the Chicken Soup for the Soul. There are a bunch of LA kind of local pro athletes. I'm not hip enough to know who's who, but a bunch of pro athletes were in the room. I met Jay Abraham for the first time in the flesh there. There were a couple of billionaire dudes. Like, it was a really high status party. And then there's just like lowly Frankie Fihn getting invited by his friends coming in the back door. And there was a dude, I was sitting with him at the restaurant kind of bar area. And I said, how are you doing today? Like, what's going on in your world? And he said, well, I just sold an app for $300 million and it officially closed yesterday. So I have $300 million more in my bank account than yesterday. And I thought, this is going to be a pretty interesting conversation. And I thought immediately, because when most of us in our world, like when we think of like agency success, we think of monthly recurring revenue and numbers. And so that's where my mind went, like 300 million. And he proceeded to tell me his story. And he told me that basically he's been a workaholic for like 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for almost 2 straight decades. His kids don't know who he is. Like they literally don't know him. Like if they passed him on the street, they wouldn't recognize him. They said his wife divorced him. And in his little bit of spare time, he's a raging alcoholic. And it made me think about it. Like in the beginning of the conversation, this guy was like mega successful in my eyes because he had just sold a $300 million app. And by the end of it, I was like, dude, I would never trade places with you in a million years, right? Because you lost everything that was important. It made me realize, those things are the actual goal, like, being able to be with your kids and things like that. And then building a business around that is like, it's a personal philosophy, but obviously you share it too.
For sure.
And it's like, that guy made 300 million, but like, to me, he lost everything that really mattered along the way. And that's not success to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you go, I think my perspective on it comes from two major, kind of things that formed how I look at life and how I approach it. One, my parents got divorced when I was very young, and I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with, my parents. That was quality time. That was fun. It was just the way life was,
Yeah.
And so, for me now being a dad, I was like, man, I'm going to make up for that, like by 10X, I'm going to spend so much time with my boys and have just a blast and create memories. So there's that piece. And then the second piece for me was, having been in the medical field, I was in the Army, a combat medic, and then worked in intensive care units for, look at you.
Yeah, I know. Ilka is spoiling me. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So, right. Hi to Ilka. Yeah. So I was, having been in the medical field for about 5 years, and I was on EMS. I watched people die. I just literally saw people die, young people, older people that were completely unexpected. And I think it just taught me, like, hey, man, life is short. Like, obviously, we've COVID, we saw a lot of people pass away unexpectedly through those years. You hear the stories of someone getting cancer or someone getting in a car accident, and you just go, man, I think we all have had those moments like, man, life is really short. But does that actually translate then into, a different way that you orient and live your life and build your business? For me, it did, for sure.
Yeah.
And I would go back and do it all the same way again. I have no regrets about. I definitely know I've sacrificed money for the sake of time with my kids. I just don't. Like, I spend more time with my kids than most people do while they're working in their prime years. Okay, that's fine. I still live a comfortable life, and all things are good. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be the $300 million guy and have no relationship with my boys. You don't get those days and times and years back ever. It's once today is gone, it's gone. So I hope that just inspires all of you who might be listening to just take stock of what's going on, how you're building your company. Are things getting out of control? Where you're getting your time sucked, and you're spending 40, 60, 80 hours a week, away from your family, and you're not really happy. If you don't have a quality of life, rethink things. There's always a different way. And, that's the great thing about Frankie's group. You can go in and ask, hey, what's, you just ask questions. If you've got, if you're up against a sticking point, you've hit a plateau in your company, or your agency. That's the great thing about these masterminds and these you can ask, and people are really willing to help. So anyway,
we've got people all the way up to 100 million, by the way. So chances are, like, somebody's at least one level past you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you know what? Anyway, I've learned. I don't think that just to what we're talking about. We tend to just really, really respect the people who are making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just because the numbers and a lot of times that's more what's out front, right? They're a 7-figure agency, they're an 8-figure agency, they just sold for 9 figures or whatever. Like, that's always seems to be the focus. When I think really we ought to be talking about, man, look at that agency owner. He or she is running an amazing agency, but they're on vacation 3 months out of the year, or look at all the time they get to spend with their kids and their wife or their husband. And, we need to, I think, actually, as an industry, put more stake in the other things that really probably have a higher priority for 95 to 100% of us.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the money, is to be able to have those things. And when you realize you can have those things right away and then build the money machine around it, it's a different game.
For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So before we run out of time, let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's talk some helpful content system and some EAT, my man, because as we know, a lot of our folks have been hit with this. And, I obviously, as somebody who hasn't done SEO for years, but like, it's a pretty intense feeling when you wake up one day and there's been a major Google update and there's this like panic to check all your clients' rankings and see what happened and see who's been hit. And sometimes, like, you have people even improve. Sometimes you have people stay neutral, but like there's a real, at least for me, there was like a real panic when you wake up and it's Google update day and your entire business is revolving around SEO. And so obviously the latest, greatest version of that is helpful content system. We had some really great talk. For those of you guys who didn't see it, probably want to also check out the last one, which will be on both Lane and I's personal profiles. But let's talk next steps, so kind of like more about like what to do about it. Oh, awesome. He's got slides.
Yeah, I got some slides. So this, I taught this class back in December of 23, but it's still highly relevant. And I'm going to tie it in with what we talked about last night. So we got like 17 minutes. So I'm going to just really rip through some of this real quick for you guys. And, if there's interest, we can always dive deeper on these things because there's several layers to these onions, of course.
Yeah.
So last week we talked about helpful content system and how that is radically affecting websites, and the websites that are being affected, and there's a lot of them. That also translates to the Google listing, the GBP listing or rankings, also going in a negative direction as well. And so we talked about how the helpful content system is literally an entire system within the algorithm that's running, and it's making an evaluation, a page-by-page evaluation, but then it's also making a site-wide evaluation. And at some level of a ratio of unhelpful pages or content pages, there can be a site-wide that just completely starts to tank your rankings. Getting a lot of feedback on your side.
Sorry.
That's all right. So when that happens, and you guys, I'm sure, have had clients that have seen this happen, or you've heard about it for sure. If you're doing any SEO at scale, there's definitely a percentage of your campaigns that are just getting hit this way. There's just no way around it. And a large part of it is because a lot of these companies and or agencies or SEOs were doing things that the algorithm is now penalizing, essentially, through the helpful content system. An example of that is a lot of these websites have location pages, and they were duplicate content, unhelpful, basically location pages that were clearly written for SEO. They were clearly deployed, these pages, for SEO purposes. The algorithm made that determination. There was, 10, 20, 30 of those pages created for SEO to try and rank in local areas in the grid. And sites that have those types of setups or deployments have been hit. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have been. And so, getting into the helpful content system, we're going to get into actual content, okay? And so, that's ultimately the core of this entire system. It's content. And at the core of the content strategy needs to be, you need to tie and eat, okay? And so within your content strategy, you have to have eat always in mind. And I'm going to boil this down to one more layer of this onion, and that is going to be boiled down to authorship, okay? So I'm going to skip ahead a slide here, and let's see here. Okay, so yeah, I'll stay here for a second.
Okay.
So, and obviously, Frankie, if you have anything to pitch in here, just chime in, of course.
I'm just letting you wrap, my man.
So what we want to do with EAT is we have to write our content for three audiences. We have to write our content specifically for humans. We talked last week about how the algorithm has gotten so it's better than a human at reading content and making a determination on whether it was written for humans or for SEO.
Yeah.
If the writers are writing content today for SEO purposes, it's focused on a one keyword or two keywords, then the whole blog article, the whole press release is focused on a keyword. That is wrong. You have to stop doing that. You have to teach your writers to stop doing that. They have to write for humans. You have to demonstrate experience, expertise, and then A for authority really has its roots in authorship. Okay, and so because of the advent of AI and artificial intelligence and how it's exploded, there's tons of content hitting the web, like just millions and millions of pages. Google is just disregarding a large percentage of it, like potentially even a majority of the new pages that are coming out are just being disregarded.
Can I just say too that like a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to gaming the system. This has been kind of a universal thing over Google for 20 years, but with the amount of Chrome browsers installed, like they see what you click on, how long you engage with it, do you stay on the site, do you interact, like their bots can tell what's just SEO generated artificial intelligence, like not even done with a good prompt, kind of low quality for SEO only kind of content. And that data is not hidden from them, just so you guys know.
Yeah. And it's fine to use AI. Like, we use it in our white label agency. We leverage it, but it's our human writers leveraging not Chat GPT, to be frank, leveraging AI tools, and then it's making them better as a writer. But they have to have a framework. They have to have an SOP for how they approach this content. Okay. And I'm like, that's one of my major components where I'm still dialed in on our fulfillment or strategy, if you will, at the agency level, is on the content, because the content matters so much right now. I appreciate the feedback that we get from our agency partners about the content too, because it's good. It's important to really pay attention to your content strategy. And so within your content strategy, you have to have EAT as a framework that you're addressing with each article. Okay. And at the root of that is authorship. Okay. It's my position that if you don't have content that's tied to an actual author, a human being, okay, then you have anonymous content. Okay, can we agree on that, right? Like, if you have a blog article and there is no direct author referenced, mentioned, linked in that blog article, then what you have simply is anonymous content. Okay. Yeah. And anonymous content is and will be disregarded by Google. Okay. By the search engines.
Yeah.
And so, and you can't fire authorship schema signals without a people type. Okay. It can't be an entity. It can't be a company. It has to be an individual person. And so this is the entire concept, the entire strategy of EAT is underpinned by authorship. Without a human being, you can't demonstrate experience. I mean, experience for who? For what, right? You can't demonstrate expertise. An anonymous somebody, something can't have specific expertise, right? So all of the conditions of EAT are predicated on an individual being involved, and that individual being involved must be mentioned, linked, referenced in each article, okay? Including your authorship schema.
Yeah.
So here is a little bit of a framework for all of you.
Can I just say that, looking at this from Google's perspective, this actually makes sense, because
sure.
if you wrote an article and you're proud of it, you probably want to put your name on it. If you wrote an article and you just it's just a quick Chat GPT trying to generate a little landing page for, plumber, Frog Balls, Nebraska, you probably don't want your name attached to that. There's probably no authorship. You're probably not going to brag about it at the Christmas dinner, right? So
right.
You kind of understand what Google is doing a little bit with this.
And if you look at most individual person, and it's an entity level search, but it's on a person, right? So you, like me here, LinkedIn, number 1, right? And my author page is number 3. I have a personal website to help tie all of my authored articles together. So when I author an article on Signal Genesis website, on the Quantum Agency website, on the Marketing Center of Excellence website, all of that is being streamed into my personal website blog. And then I have links off of my author page to all of my other platforms. So when I go back here and you look at all these other platforms, guys, I'm practicing what I'm preaching here. Okay. It matters. And this is how every one of your SEO campaigns should be set up. CEO, founder, whatever, leader of the company should be the author. If they don't want to be, they need to find somebody at the company that's a consistent person that can be the author of all the content for their company.
Yeah.
Chief marketing officer, whoever, right? But it needs to be somebody. And then maybe you should be having accounts for all of their on all these platforms for all of the content that they actually author as much as possible. And you can automate publishing content from the WordPress site or blog, and then automatically publish to the majority of these platforms using Zapier, using Make. There's a number of different automation tools that can help you then republish or push or syndicate your blog content that's authored on a blog out to your different platforms for further syndication of that content, which then garners clicks, i.e. engagement. Okay, that's like CTR. And that helps with then ultimately building more authority to the authored content. So this is really, really important. Like, I can't emphasize this enough. Without authorship, you can't have EAT. Without EAT, your content isn't really helpful because the algorithm doesn't want anonymous content, anonymous pages of content. In fact,
Yeah.
it just outright disregarding that. That leads down to a whole conversation around crawl budget and all of those things, but that's a different topic. EAT and authorship are incredibly important. And so when you get back into demonstrating EAT and experience, I would actually mention the word experience as much as possible in your content, and then tie it to an actual experience. What are experiences that a company is going to have, or a plumber or a roofer? Well, a review from a recent client is a great experience. Take the review, put it into your content, do a little case study or narrative about what you did for the customer, the client,
Yeah.
around that experience. Use the word experience as you describe that experience.
Can I just say on that
Yeah.
that I think that's the easiest way for companies to do it is not to think about like I got to create content, but like how do we document the stuff we're already doing? And the low hanging fruit for me in that is a case study. Like if you're like you mentioned, a general contractor and you fixed a deck, like turn that into content. Hey, this was a couple before pictures of what the deck looked like. Here's after. Here's the crew working. Now we got a blog article about it, and it's like it's actually written for humans. And it's not like we had to sit down and scheme up content. You just documented what you're already doing, and it's somebody who's interested in getting a deck built is going to be interested in that article because they see themselves in that kind of similar kind of situation.
So SOP in all of our SEO campaigns today is we need to have a good LinkedIn profile, or we create one if the subject of the campaign doesn't have one. And I'm talking about the personal profile of the CEO, the founder, somebody, a spearhead at the company, and then also a Reddit account. Okay, LinkedIn and Reddit are getting a lot of authority, a lot of juice, a lot of attention from the algorithm. So those are two major accounts. You saw in my search how LinkedIn was the number one result. Okay. And that is for the most people. All right. And so what I really recommend is that you then link to that LinkedIn profile, link to that Reddit account, syndicate your content to the Reddit account. And like Frankie was saying, take these case studies, these before and after pictures, whatever it might be, and put that stuff in your content. You can link to reviews. You can link to a LinkedIn profile. And that's going to start to actually help you score on the EAT signal component. And that's also going to, that's what the algorithm, you're going to lead the algorithm or the bot into making a determination that the content is helpful. If it's anonymous content, it's like you're dead at the door.
Yeah. Plus, I imagine like the bots can tell that there's a network of content and you've been at this a while and therefore
100%.
You have real expertise. Like somebody, even just like 3 to 6 months, like, hey, they've been consistently putting out good stuff for 3 to 6 months that people read is better than like, hey, this person isn't, like you said, anonymous and just wrote one article yesterday.
Exactly.
Like they want to see people who are consistently putting out good stuff because, I mean, if you look at it from Google's perspective, they only make money if you stay on pages and you click stuff and you click ads and you surf their browsers and all those kind of things and, use their email and so forth. And they can sell your data, and all of that is only really possible if the content itself like keeps you engaged with it and keeps you using it.
For sure. And you can link and interlink all of these profiles. Like, when you saw my author page, these other authorship platforms should be part of your linking and interlinking strategy. I mean, it's not like I'm going to link to all of these in every article, but I mean, but send links and send traffic and post a Quora, link inside of your Facebook profile and send some traffic to it. I mean, think about these things because this is what the algorithm is looking for, to what Frankie was just saying. It's looking for this footprint, and the larger the footprint grows, the more the authorship profile grows, the more authority that author profile has, the more that content's going to get attention. And the more you're just leading the algorithm to determine this is helpful content, because it's going to make a determination if it crawls it, is it helpful or not?
Yeah.
Helpful is a really ambiguous term, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're trying to give some form to this when it comes to what does that actually mean? Okay, so a layer of this. If you think of in terms of experience, expertise, authority, trust, and then you take another layer of that and you go, all right, I've got to have authorship as the base of all of this. You've got to have identified content.
Yeah. 1000%, my man. I got a jet here because I'm about to do our weekly Wolfpack call. For those of you guys who are interested, you guys can check out some Elaine stuff. I'm a user of both of his stuff, Signal Genesis, his press release software, which is more like a ranking signal software, but I would suggest you guys check it out if you guys are doing this, especially it's a high caliber thing, very useful for clients, as well as Quantum Agency. For those of you guys who are interested in looking at a fulfillment partner, this guy can just do it for you. So much love. Appreciate you, my man. Got a jet.
Yeah, you too. Love you, man. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. And we'll, for everyone who joins us live, we'd love to have you join us live, watch us live, but we're here every week, 8:30 Pacific time.
Yeah.
11:30 a.m. Eastern time, every Wednesday, the weekly SEO Jam with Lane Houk and Frankie Fihn. Peace. We're out.